Hi guys! Welcome to our last lecture. You'll notice my PowerPoints have gotten more and more pale and boring as the semester has gone along. You know how it goes. Anyway, welcome to our last class. I'm super glad to see that you guys have done such great work this semester, and there's like 11 of you who have made it all the way through to this home stretch. So that's really totally fantastic. 1 second while I put my timer on so that I don't go over. There we go. Okay, so I am late with this lecture, for which I apologize. I wanted to take a look at some of your drafts before I did this lecture, so please take an extra day for your QTs if you need it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the plans for our last week of class. So we're going to go ahead and do some peer reviews for this last discussion board. So please go ahead and post your draft as soon as possible, and then we'll do the same setup as last time, where you peer review the person before you and after you. And please go ahead and do those peer reviews early if you can, before Saturday, if that's possible for you. We're going to cancel homework 6, I think, and because you guys have a lot going on this week, lots of revisions. And where we're headed toward is your final portfolio. I'm going to extend the deadline just a little bit on that until Monday, so that's a week from today. That's just like I've given you like one extra day than what's on the syllabus because I found out that my grades are going to be due later than I thought they were. So your final portfolio is really, really important. So please do be sure that you turn it in. The instructions are all on Blackboard, but just to kind of go over that briefly, your portfolios are going to include a final revision of your main essays, so your Yelp review and reflection, your essay 2, the school's commercial essay, and then this final essay. So I expect to see like some actual revisions in all of those. I do want you to think a lot about proofreading for this, for your final portfolio. You guys have not been nearly as bad about typos as some students are, so that's good. You're already kind of ahead of the game. But I do want you to sort of spend a little more time working on proofreading with this final portfolio. And here's why. Typos, spelling mistakes, all those kinds of irritating little things, they can be difficult to catch because they require some attention to detail, but they're really, really important, especially when you go out to try to get a professional job. I'm sure you guys know this, but that's a really easy way for human resource folks to sort of make an initial cut. If they find typos in a cover letter or a resume, you're out of there. It's unlikely you're going to get a call back, and it's really because these what typos and spelling errors and those kinds of things say to a reader is that you didn't care or that you don't have good attention to detail. So you don't want to present that appearance to your reader. So I'm sure y'all are college students. You've been around the block, so I'm sure you all have strategies for proofreading. Let me just mention that like the key to proofreading is to give yourself like a new set of eyes, right? So you can't. Proofreading does you no good if you're doing it like right after you've been working on the paper for like 2 hours, because you're not gonna see the problems. So you need to give yourself some fresh eyes. So one thing you can do is to like get all of your revisions done, say like Sunday night, and then Monday morning wake up and do a final round of just proofreading. So like sleep on it, wake up the next day and then proofread. If you don't have the luxury of time to be able to do that, there are a variety of strategies that you can use to help you to see your paper with fresh eyes. These can involve like starting at the end and going backwards sentence by sentence, or reading the paper aloud. Both of those strategies help you to kind of see the paper anew. But I'm going to be really picky about typos here, so I will dock your grade for typos because I do want you guys to have this experience of producing a very professional looking piece of writing here at the end. Okay, so So the portfolio includes really well proofread and revised versions of your essays, along with a fairly short new piece of writing, a reflection essay. These instructions are all on Blackboard, but it's a 2 to 4 page essay. And by 2 pages, I mean at least like 2 full pages. Double spaced, of course, but there are 2 options that I've given you for how to approach this reflection essay. One is to talk about your writing process, and the other is to talk about your own sort of sense of priorities about what characterizes a good piece of writing. Y'all have heard a lot from me about what characterizes a good piece of writing. For me, that's like a debatable thesis, deep analysis, all that kind of stuff. But I want to hear from you. And what I've said in the instructions is that these reflections essays at the end of semesters can be lame, right? They can be opportunities for just kind of like blowing smoke, right? But what I would like to see some actual content here, and so what I've asked you to do is to use specific examples from your own writing to talk about in order to kind of talk about either your writing process or your ideas about what characterizes a good piece of writing. And then my final piece of instructions about the portfolio is to please upload 1 document for your portfolio. It makes my life a lot easier if you'll do that. Just cut and paste them all of your essays into a single document, either a PDF or a docx. And I would really appreciate that. And then you'll just upload that to Blackboard. And then if you guys wouldn't mind, I don't check out until, say, like Tuesday. Please keep checking your email until at least then, so that I can, so that if I have any trouble opening your files or anything like that, I can still get in touch with you. So don't go off to full summer vacation mode quite yet. Let me make sure that I get your get your paper and everything, your portfolio. Okay, so please, if you have any questions at all, just shoot me an email. Cool. So what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna kind of walk my way through about 5 kinds of common problems with Essay 3. These are the kinds of things that I think I'm going to be putting in comments for a lot of you guys on the sorts of problems that I see the most often in this kind of essay. And let me say right now, before I forget, that my plan is to turn around your essays tomorrow. So sorry, that's going to be Tuesday, and it may take me until Wednesday, but I will do my best to have all of your essays back by then. I just finished all of the SA2s. I kind of kept pushing them back so that I could get your annotated bibliographies back and all of that stuff. That is the method to my madness. Okay, so let's talk about first common Essay 3 problem, and that is the lack of a thesis problem. So remember that a research paper like this still needs to have a debatable argument, right? It's still the same kind of essay that you guys wrote for Essay 2, right? It just uses more sources and does more research, right? So it needs to still have that they say, I say structure that we talked about with Essay 2, right? Which is that strategy for articulating your thesis and why it's debatable, why someone might be surprised or interested, why they actually need to read your paper to understand the implications of your argument. And for our purposes here, because you have so many sources, ideally your they say ought to be an actual source. So that's what we're going for, and I'll be giving you guys lots of individual comments about how to make that work for your particular essay. So you know your intro needs work if it only poses questions but doesn't answer them. That's simply not how analytical papers work, right? You don't get to just pose questions at the beginning, right? You have to give us the answer at the beginning. That's something we've been talking about from the beginning of this course, right? That these academic papers need to give their thesis away. They need to give the solution away at the start, right? It's not like a detective novel or something where we're not going to find out the answer until the end. That's not the way this kind of writing works. And really, I think the reason for that is because it's a kind of writing that people both read and do for work or for school. Which means that we need to be, like reading these kinds of papers is not like on its own just an enjoyable activity, like reading a good novel or something. So we need to, you need to motivate us to read, right? And you do that by showing us that you've got something to say, right? That you're gonna teach us something new. And so that means that you want to give it away at the beginning. So posing questions but not answering those questions, that's a sign you need work, your intro needs work. The other common thing that happens with a research paper is that sometimes we'll sort of just present our research as like a neutral report, right? Like here's a collection of a bunch of facts, a lot of information about this topic. But it's really, really crucial that you still remember that you have to have an argument, right? This goes back to what we talked about in the last lecture, right? That idea that you're not like taking sides, right? It's not like a gun control good or gun control bad argument, right? It's not mere argument, but you still have a thesis, right? And what you have is a complex, objective point, right? So here's an example of an introduction that needs a thesis, that doesn't have one yet. Social media use in a global sense is slowly rising and is affecting countries around the world, whether they are modern or traditional. This is also happening in many Arab countries, which are primarily in the Middle East and North Africa. Some governments have attempted to keep their citizens in the dark, but these plans backfire because the people refuse to be silenced and have revolted. New media, such as YouTube and Facebook, give people more power in delivering information, but how powerful is it? In the age of information, how many people actually feel safe to use the internet to alter their country's course? And not just politically, but how are they using its social capacity, and just how important is social media to the Arab world. There are researchers in fields such as law and sociology that have attempted to find answers, but sometimes it helps to look at the lives and opinions of the people themselves to answer these questions. Many people now have the ability to change their country for the better. Do they know it? So you get this sense from reading this intro that this person's done a lot of thinking. These are really interesting questions. I want to know the answer. But to be a well-structured academic analytical research paper, we need to have some kind of a claim at the beginning. Not just questions, but a claim. So here is that introduction rewritten with a they say, I say. So the first couple of sentences are the same. The red is the new part. Jones, 2012, articulated an argument that appeared often in the popular press during the uprisings in the Arab world in 2011. These revolutions would not have taken place without social media. 2 citations. However, such accounts overemphasize the difference between new media and older media that have existed for generations. The revolutionaries of the Arab Spring were not so different from their predecessors in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. You feel how different that is, right? This first version is going in a billion different directions, right? This is a classic draft intro, right? It's, we're getting in there, getting started. This is a good revised intro, right? It's calmer, it's moving in a particular direction, it has a point, we know where we're going, we know what their argument is, and we know why that argument is debatable. What's really, really good about this they say, I say, is that the they say is an actual source. We may not all get to that point, given, depending on your particular topic and how your research has unfolded. But look at how great this is. This is ideally what we're aiming for, right? So this writer found a source that exemplifies for them an argument that they saw in a lot of different sources, right? That like the revolts and uprisings in the Arab world in 2011 came about because of social media. And then they respond to that and they say, no, right? That's not actually what happened. Really, there's a lot of continuity between these revolts and revolutions that took place in the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s before social media existed. So tying down your they say to a particular source, that's really awesome. But even if you don't get to that point, even if you can't find a particular source that having this structure still, even if it's a sort of a hypothetical they say, this is what we want, all right? Clear thesis that is debatable. Okay, over and out. Next to the next segment.